In 2011, Jaguar Land Rover realized that people wanted something, let me say, compact, and they decided to give you a baby Range Rover because maybe the Sport, the Vogue, and the Autobiography maybe were too bulky or too expensive. So they made this baby Range Rover, which is called the Range Rover Evoque. So what exactly is this Range Rover Evoque? How does it look like? What are the competition, and should you consider it? So make sure you subscribe to 026 Motoring such that you learn more about cars. We're going to tell you the bad and the good sides of this 2016 Range Rover Evoque. This car came into production back in 2011, and I've already said it's a small Range Rover. It's actually a baby Range Rover if you ask me, and it looks to satisfy those buyers who want something premium but which is a little bit compact and at a budget. Now the competition for this car, when you're looking at the price range, will be cars like the Mercedes GLC, and maybe you can say the AUDI Q5. Actually the Q5 is way cheaper, but it plays in this segment. And maybe you can also look at something like a BMW X3. It's way smaller than a normal, or let me say the Range Rover Sport. And speaking of looks, let's start with this face. On this face you have this I could say it's a slim grille compared to the Range Rover Sport. You also have this Range Rover nameplate here, and then these are Land Rover name here. You have these LED lights, which are of course automatic, and then slightly below it you have this slim fog. I don't know whether this qualifies to be a fog light, but yes, these are fog light. And in this headlamp we also have a daytime running lamps. And then when you are looking at these wheels, these are actually 18-inch. Actually, these are 19-inch alloy wheels, which look good, of course. And then when you are looking at this side profile, we have these black finishes all over. It's not a black edition, yes, but the black and white contrasting gives this car actually a very good looks. Now, how about the rear? When you're looking at this rear, we have this big spoiler here, of course, to improve the overall aesthetics of this car. You have this Range Rover name here, you have this Land Rover name here also, and then you have this beautiful tail light. And then on the left side we have this Evoque nameplate. From a looks perspective, actually you can now see why I'm saying this it's a baby Range Rover. That is the best description of this 2016 Range Rover Evoque. Speaking of looks, let's get into the welcome to the cockpit of this 2016 Range Rover Evoque, and immediately you can tell that I'm seated in a premium product, something that looks good. I rarely give positive reviews when it comes to the interior crafting of many cars, but immediately you step into this car, as a 7-year-old car, you can tell actually a lot of quality in this interior, and this car has been able to hold its looks for 7 years. Starting with this steering wheel, of course, it actually looks pretty good. You have a volume control buttons on the left side and the menu control buttons on the right side. We have cruise control down here. We also have these paddle shifters are behind the steering wheel. Looking at this dashboard, actually it's quality, and while there are plastics here, it's actually this leather, actually soft leather, pretty good actually. And then coming to this center console, we have this gear knob. Actually it's not a gear knob, we have these gear selectors, and actually they normally, let me say, they pop up when you start the car. Check this. When you start the car, this will pop up from this center console. And then this infotainment screen is actually a 5.5-inch, and it has very quality graphics if you ask me. When you're looking at the features here, you have this electronic parking brake. The seats here are actually heated for the driver here and the co-driver on this other side. You have this hill descent control button, and then you have this traction control button actually. Now this infotainment screen actually also serves as a reverse camera, and Range Rover have made things easy. If you want to switch to reverse, you are just turning this knob this way, and then you can have a 360-degree view of your car, and it will actually help you when backing out of tricky situations. Yeah. In this center console, you have these two cup holders here. We also have this cigarette lighter here, and then inside here we have a 12-volt charging port, a USB port, and actually an auxiliary port here. Another thing that shows that this is a premium product is this big panoramic sunroof, which actually even serves the rear passengers in this car. So in case you are traveling on the highway and maybe you need some good lighting even for the rear passengers, or you want some sunlight, you can open it that way. My overall judgment of this cabin, from these beige leather interior seats, which are actually pretty comfortable, the features here and the interior execution of this car, actually Range Rover aced it. It's actually a 5 out of 5 if it was me rating the interior execution of this car. And maybe another thing I forgot to tell you, in this car we have one of the best sound systems. Actually we have this, it's actually a 12 speaker Meridian sound system, actually one of the best sound systems in the business. Space wise, this is a baby Range Rover. Of course you don't expect the practicality of the normal Range Rover Sport, but from my sitting position, these seats are of course electronically adjusted. I am actually having an elevated sitting position. It's pretty good. And when you're looking at comfort and my knee room and the headroom, well, the headroom of course is not that good because of this big panoramic sunroof. The knee room is pretty decent, and the sitting position is also good. Now let me see, how does the rear seats look like? Speaking of accommodation in this second row seat, the Range Rover Evoque actually is a practical car. You have like 10 centimeters of knee room. You also have these pockets here for your documents. Of course the seats here are pretty comfortable, but because this is a 4-wheel drive car, this middle seat is kind of raised up because there is a drive shaft sending drive to the rear wheels. How does the trunk space or boot space look like? The tailgate is actually electronically adjusted or operated. Now this is the amount of room you have with this 2016 Range Rover Evoque. It's not big actually, and when you're looking at cars like the BMW X3, the Audi Q5, or something like the Mercedes GLC, this is actually one of the smallest trunk spaces in the class. But most probably you may not be looking for practicality. If you are going for the Range Rover Evoque, you already know that from the size of this car. Boot space is improved, especially when you lower the second row seats. Of course you're gonna do that on rare occasions, but that is how you're gonna get more room in this 2016 Range Rover Evoque. Otherwise, when all the seats are in position, there is not much room you are getting in this 2016 Range Rover Evoque. What are the engine options when it comes to this 2015 Range Rover Evoque? You must be wondering why I'm alighting from the left side, but Range Rover decided to put the latch opening the bonnet at a wide position. In the soul of this 2016 Range Rover Evoque lives a 2000cc turbocharged petrol engine. It's actually a 4-cylinder, and it makes 240 brake horsepower. Now that power is channeled to all the 4 corners of this car, because this car is actually a 4-wheel drive by a 9-speed automatic transmission. Now this is I could say this is the best engine if you're going for the Range Rover Evoque. It has a better reliability reputation than the other one. Now the second variant is a 2.2 turbo diesel engine. Of course it's the best if you are looking for fuel economy and, let me say, torque. If you are a long distance long distance traveler, the diesel variant is actually good, but this is the sweet spot if you are looking for reliability. While ownership cost or maintenance cost may not be a big problem for someone getting a Range Rover Evoque, it's good learning that it's a reliability reputation when compared to the Mercedes GLC and the Audi Q5. It's somewhat lower. It's actually at the same level with something like the BMW X3. The ownership costs of course are high, but when you're purchasing a car worth 6.5 million shillings and then it's a Land Rover, it's a Range Rover, you know the maintenance cost and the ownership costs are going to be on the roof. But then it gives you a good interior. The powertrain here is pretty good, and you drive around, you're driving around with a premium badge. If you have 6.5 million shillings, of course the Range Rover Evoque is going to give you a premium interior. Actually it's the best in the class. It's going to give you, let me say, some luxury look or some class, because it's a premium product. But then if you want something spacious or, let me say, practical, something that you can take off-road, purchasing a Land Cruiser Prado will be a sensible option. This car of course is a 4-wheel drive, but I don't think there is any sensible buyer who's going to take it off-road. And when you're looking at the maintenance cost of this car, of course they're going to be way higher than the Land Cruiser Prado. But when you're purchasing these, maybe definitely your financial stability, or let me say sensibility, is way up there, and you already know that it's not going to be serviced, let me say, at any shade tree mechanic or under tree. That's all you need to know about this 2016 Range Rover Evoque. If there is some information I've left out in this review, you can write to us on 026 Motoring, or you can ring us so that we tell you more about this 2016 Range Rover Evoque, how it competes with the rivals of course, and maybe another motoring question, because 026 Motoring gives you trusted and unbiased car advice such that will make your car purchase and ownership journey easy. See you next time guys on another review.